No deeper love can be imagined than the one enjoyed all too briefly by one very devoted couple. Steve Hartman has their story.
Thank you all for coming to this special occasion.
Deep in New York's Adirondack Mountains, friends and family gathered to help 59-year-old Chris Sharoon DeForge pay tribute to her remarkable husband.
Your marriage to Paul was one for the history books.
What did you love about him?
Yeah.
His sense of humor. He got me laughing and everything. He was the one for me.
That's him?
That's me and my Polly.
Chris and Paul met in 1988, and after dating 5 years, they became one of the first couples in the world with Down syndrome to get married.
I proposed to him.
You proposed to him?
Yes. I whispered in his ear, would you marry me? And he looked up with me with his big, beautiful smile. He shook his head, yes.
What's on the menu for tonight?
But Chris's sister, Susan Sharoon, says it took a lot more than yes to get them to I do. There were marriage classes, counseling sessions, and a whole lot of pushback from supposedly able-minded people.
Yeah, there really was quite a bit of resistance. There was a feeling that it was like children getting married versus two, very capable adults.
Today, people with Down syndrome who want to get married still face resistance. There's still some question as to whether couples like Chris and Paul love as deeply as the rest of us. And in fact, we saw evidence that maybe they don't, that maybe their love is deeper.
Thanks to you and Paul, everyone here has seen what true love looks like.
At the end of the ceremony,
Beautiful.
Chris spread a portion of her husband's ashes near the lake where he loved to fish.
Yes, you love him so much.
The rest will be mixed with hers one day
I love you.
and buried together.
And I did the best I can.
You
to
were the
help
best wife any husband could ever have.
It was an intensely intimate moment, shared with you today for a reason.
What I hope is that other families will entertain this. Other people will recognize the importance of this kind of, intimate love.
People like us need to have a chance.
Chance at what?
A chance to find the man of your dreams like I did.
Are you going to be able to be happy again?
To be honest, I don't know. I just lost the man that I love. But I'm going to try.
And even if she doesn't succeed, Chris says it's still far better to have loved and lost than to be told you can never love at all.
Steve Hartman has the story of love lost and found again.
To me, some of the saddest tombstones are the incompletes, the couples where one has passed but the other still present, buried above, under a mound of loneliness, such as the case of Blossom the goose.
Last August, Blossom lost her mate, Bud. They'd lived on the pond here at Riverside Cemetery in Marshalltown, Iowa. And according to cemetery staff, after Bud died, Blossom's grief was as evident as any human's.
Her behavior was it was quite a change.
General Manager Dory Tommen says Blossom started hanging out near the front office, always staring at herself in the glass or the model tombstones.
She wanted company.
Even if it's just a reflection.
Yeah.
And that's when Dory got a crazy idea. A hysterically lovely, crazy idea. She posted a personal ad that read in part, "Lonely widowed domestic goose seeks life partner for companionship and occasional shenanigans. I'm youthful, adventurous, and lively."
I mean, what are the odds you're going to find some goose, a male goose?
Oh, in Iowa?
Apparently, this state is lousy with bachelor geese.
So the phone rings? Mm-hmm. And what do you hear? Honk, 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 honk.
No, I didn't hear anything like that.
Instead, she heard humans Deb and Randy Hoyt, owners of a widower goose named Frankie.
He needed a mate.
Yeah, and plus he's so lonely.
I thought, well, that'll be great,
And so they set up a blind date where Blossom welcomed Frankie with open wings.
They started walking off together, and they haven't really left each other's sides since.
A loving reminder that until your last day is etched in stone, don't ever give up on finding goosebumps.
From Steve Hartman this morning, proof that love does indeed conquer all.
For most of her adult life, 69-year-old Jean Gustafson has suffered from chronic regret.
Can't turn back the clock. I wish I could.
Would you do anything different?
Yes, I would have married him. I would have married him.
As we first reported a few months ago, what Jean so regrets is breaking up with her college sweetheart,
So this was the spring of '72.
a guy she met in the German club at Loyola University in Chicago.
This is Steve and I in the back here.
Jean says he would have made the perfect husband
A lot of memories here.
if only he'd been white.
My mother was absolutely livid. I mean,
What did she say?
what didn't she say? How could I disgrace the family? It was not pretty.
Partly because of those pressures, Jean broke up with Steve Watts and never saw him again. Until last year, when she tracked him down at this Chicago nursing home.
What I found was sort of a broken man.
Like Jean, Steve was divorced with no kids. But life for him had been much harder. He'd fallen on terrible times. He was homeless, had 2 strokes, and was almost unrecognizable the day Jean walked back into his life.
But he's still the wonderful, gorgeous man that I knew.
Did all those feelings come rushing back?
Yes, for both of us.
And so, with her mother no longer in the way, Jean made arrangements to move Steve from the nursing home to her home in Portland, Oregon.
Sleeping. I feel terribly lucky that I get a second chance. Steve?
Steve's health issues have left him bedridden, but his mind is sharp and his heart young. In fact, if you listen closely, you can still hear his devotion, unwavering after all these years.
Always love you.
Racism drove its wedge, and love wormed its way back, permanently. A few weeks ago, 43 years after her mom laid their love asunder, Jean and Steve were married. Newlyweds, now well on their way to making up for a lifetime of lost time.
One of the big prizes at tonight's Grammys, Song of the Year. Our Steve Hartman nominates a different tune for Song of the Ages.
I remember that.
It's been 61 years of wedded bliss. But Mort and Susan Block of Kennett Square, Pennsylvania say they're meant to be. Almost never was.
Right.
Not because of Mort. He knew he wanted to marry her from day one.
It was just like that. It was instant for me.
But Susan, not so much.
I didn't have any grandiose feeling that it was going to go anywhere.
To complicate matters, Mort was a sailor. And after that first date, he headed out to sea, where, on the bridge of the destroyer Hazelwood, he wrote a song for Susan.
And my feelings were, I miss you more each day, since you've gone away.
The song was called My Love, and it worked its magic.
My love. And then it went in a drawer, and it stayed there. Enter my grandson.
Then I was like, oh, what's that?
Matt Block saw the sheet music and shared it with some friends.
Everyone was like, damn, this is a hit. This is great.
Matt works in the music industry, so he was able to gather some of the best studio musicians in the country. And together, they took that dusty old love song and made it sing.
You never seem to know that I love you so.
Mort's love song, originally intended for an audience of one, has now been played more than 1 million times on social media.
I was floored.
Running up and down the hall. It was unbelievable.
And that is just the beginning. This fall, Mort Block, now 82, will grace the cover of an album featuring My Love and other collaborations. Perhaps a Grammy next year. But for Mort and Susan, like couples everywhere,
cheers.
The song of the year will always be their song.
Through our joy and our tears, my love.
Steve Hartman has a portrait of love everlasting.
After 20 years in a box, Monica Eichen is ironing her wedding dress, getting ready to wear it once more. And although she will wipe away every wrinkle, she will not smooth over the tragedy it represents.
I think wearing the dress makes a statement.
What is the statement?
That I was happily married the day he died. And I was looking forward to having a family.
Monica was married just 11 months when her husband Michael, a bond trader, died in Tower 2. It was a brief marriage, but Monica says the loss feels everlasting.
There is no moving on. You never move on from it. You move in. You move into the life that was chosen for you.
Hi, my name is Monica Eichen, founder of September's Mission.
When I first met Monica, just 4 months after 9/11, she'd already moved into that new life.
We will fight.
Advocating for a memorial on the site of the towers and warning that any other use of the land would be unacceptable.
You're going to stand down there
Absolutely.
in front of the bulldozers and not let them put up a building.
Right. We don't build over crying souls.
She was tenacious, relentless.
George Pataki, New York governor at the time, says it's important to remember that a lot of people didn't think we needed a memorial here.
People had just said we had to move on, just rebuild. But Monica said this was hallowed ground.
Was there a louder voice than hers?
A lot of people deserve credit for that, but certainly Monica Eichen is among the most.
Monica has since remarried and has a family, but she freely admits and has come to accept that she will always be in love with 2 men.
We can live our lives, but still keep that memory.
Moving in, but never moving on. Her motto and her vision for this most sacred space.
Steve Hartman is winging it this morning with a story about the power of love.
At the New England Wildlife Center in Massachusetts, they treat thousands of injured animals every year. But Executive Director Zach Mertz says one recent case stands out from all the rest.
This was a first for us. Here's the goose.
The patient was a Canada goose they named Arnold. Arnold had a badly damaged foot.
And as we're doing it, we're prepping him for anesthesia, giving him meds. We hear this faint tapping at the door.
Tapping at the door?
Yeah. We all kind of turned around simultaneously and we're pretty shocked.
Zach says it was a visitor for Arnold.
We don't allow that, but we definitely had to make an exception in this case.
An exception for a spouse.
Don't worry, he's in good hands.
How did she know that her mate was in here?
My only guess is that she saw us capture him the day before, and he was probably hunking in the cage overnight.
After surgery, the staff moved Arnold to the floor for recovery, where his mate, who they named Amelia, comforted and preened him. The avian embodiment of in sickness and in health.
Geese do mate for life, but if something dreadful happens to one, the other typically remarries. But not Amelia. She wasn't leaving her man. No honkin' way.
Throughout his convalescence, now in its 4th week, they've been putting Arnold in a pen out back, an hour daily for fresh air. And every time, without fail, Amelia comes running to her gander, marches right into his cage in full-throated surrender.
I think it really gave us all a new respect for how social these animals are and sort of the depth that they have in their emotions.
I know this isn't your field per se, but is this love?
You know, I don't know if it's love, but they really make each other calm and happy, and yeah, I think we could all learn something from them.
Arnold was released this past week, back into the wings of his beloved. They probably won't return, but hopefully their example will stay with us, because what's good for the goose is crucial for for mankind.
Steve Hartman this morning has the story of a couple getting a second chance at love.
Which pictures do we have here? Anything current?
Jeff and Angela are in that getting to know you stage of their relationship. But unlike most couples going through this discovery period,
Remember that.
Jeff and Angela Hartung of Tulsa, Oklahoma,
What did we do when we were there?
Are married and have been for the past 17 years.
I don't remember.
so much was lost after the accident.
About 5 years ago, Angela got hit by a car while crossing this intersection in New York City. She suffered a traumatic brain injury and was in a coma for about a month. When she woke up, she was trapped in the past.
I don't remember anything at all. I asked for my two children. I thought they were like 2 and 8 years old. They were 17 and 23 years old. Sue, you're sweet.
Angela had no memory of at least the last 15 years of her life. She thought she was still married to her first husband, who died long ago, and had no recollection whatsoever of her second wedding to Jeff, or anything about Jeff, which left him with a question that had no easy answer: how to go from stranger back to spouse. He started by lining virtually every inch of their home with pictures, reminders of happier days. Then he began courting his wife.
What about that one up there?
And most importantly, he never left her side.
I love how you've helped me.
And eventually, it worked, which called for a celebration, one Angela would never forget.
We're gathered here today as witnesses for Jeff and Angela as they renew their vows of holy matrimony.
Last month, surrounded by friends and family in New York's Central Park, Jeff and Angela started the next chapter of their storybook tale.
Today, I choose you, Angela.
Again.
Again.
I'll kiss your bride, Jeff.
Of course, those painful years would have broken a lot of marriages. But Jeff believes the accident did quite the opposite for his.
I honestly believe that this happened for a reason.
You feel like it's a blessing that this happened, not the injuries, but the fact that you had to prove yourself all over again?
I do. To be able to do over. How many times have we said, oh, I wish I could go back and do something over again? I've gotten to do that.
And that's the beauty of having a second chance at finding your one true love. At St. Clair's Hospital in Denville, New Jersey, they still can't stop talking about it.
You don't forget any call like that.
A few months ago, these emergency responders got a call for a man with chest pain. And what a heart they found.
First thing he said was, don't let me die.
He said that to me too. He said all he wanted to do was take his wife out to Ruth Chris for dinner.
Her favorite restaurant.
It was pretty cute.
Those were the final words of 91-year-old Joe Lefkin. His last wish before suffering a major heart attack was to take his wife to dinner one last time.
It seemed as though he loved her a great deal.
His wife, Margie, can't tell you how hard it is to lose the love of your life. Can't tell you because her husband's death was short-lived.
Oh, you're making me lunch, honey?
Yes, darling.
Joe was gone just 10 minutes before medics restarted his heart. And what amazed them was what he woke up shouting.
He said, Ruth Chris! You know,
He's coming back from the dead, he's saying the same thing?
Exactly. He said exactly the same thing.
Joe got his dinner with Margie. On the house, of course. But they say the greater gift is still giving.
We're just closer. If that's possible. Is this true, Boom?
Oh, yeah. She's one in a million, Steve. I can still make her swoon. You want to see it?
Yeah. Well, no, I take that back. Okay. Meant no when I said yeah.
Here. Are we too much?
You're too much, yeah.
This week, couples across America will go out, assuming there will be many more Valentines to come.
Here's something else.
But not Joe and Margie. They will go to dinner, appreciating each other now more than ever.
Steve, she's got 6 men.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. Please don't say that. You're on the air.
And they're all waiting for me to check out.
You shouldn't say
You've got
that.
so many guys that love
You're
you.
on the air.
Well, he's going to cut this all out.
please, I hope so.
You gotta love
I'm gonna feel the way I do
young love.
today, 'cause you make me feel so young. Yep.
Around Starkville, Mississippi, retired mail carrier Charles Evans is known mostly for his questionable taste in lawn furnishings. But I came here for something undeniably beautiful.
The man with the plan.
Charles met his wife Louise back in 1949.
When you looked at her, it's
Whoa.
like electrical shock.
Really?
I guess it's love.
To Charles, true love is so powerful, nothing can stop it.
That's a big four-letter word.
Nothing.
Straighten it out.
Which is why, after she died in 2011, after 60 years of marriage, he decided a grave marker wasn't enough, that their love deserved more than a monument. What their love needed was a museum. And so, in a little outbuilding behind his house, Charles Evans built just that.
This is our memorabilia area.
Inside, he's got the shoe shine stand he was working at when he met her. He's got all the music they used to dance to. And he's got 4 walls packed solid with pictures, documenting every significant occasion.
And this was, we went out to lunch.
And most every insignificant occasion.
This was a different place at lunch.
Different lunch.
And this, she didn't like that one because they caught her laughing with food in her mouth.
Needless to say, he doesn't get a whole lot of visitors, which is fine by Charles.
This is our last dance.
In fact, you get the sense he almost enjoys his alone time more. On slow days, he slow dances with Louise.
I guess I'm trying to relive our life, would you think?
Maybe.
I don't know. It's so hard to explain, you know. But it's not a suffering memory, it's a beautiful memory, you know.
Sometimes people try to tell Charles to move on. But in his mind, why would you want to make a bunch of new memories?
This is us again.
When the old ones are still so good.
Yeah, she was lovely. That's a beautiful picture there, too, see.
What makes Tim's Place restaurant in Albuquerque, New Mexico so special is that it is indeed Tim's Place.
Hello, how are you doing today? Welcome to my place.
Tim Harris was the first restaurant owner in the country with Down syndrome.
This for you guys.
For the last 5 years, he has lived for his business.
Let's enjoy. Oh, yeah.
Which is why his customers were shocked when Tim announced recently that he was closing.
My customers cry a lot into my eyes. Gonna miss you.
So what drives a man to give up a job he loves more than anything?
Yeah.
A girl he loves more than anything.
I cannot wait.
That blur in the I Love Tim t-shirt is Tiffany Johnson. They met at a Down syndrome convention.
I was like, oh my God, oh my God.
Did you go up to him and say something?
I was too scared to.
Too scared to?
Because I never met a guy like Tim.
Tiffany says it was the weirdest feeling.
I think I got hit by a love bug.
Eventually, Tim got bit by it too.
Will you be my girlfriend?
You know I will. Yes.
He made her his steady and decided to move to Denver to be closer to her. Tim plans to open a new restaurant there, but it's still going to be hard leaving what he knows. In fact, he cries every time he thinks about it.
I'm just really sad I had to lose this place. I'm pretty sad.
It's incredible to watch. He's deeply grieving about the idea of this transition.
Tim's father, Keith.
While at the same time being as excited as I've ever seen him about the possibility of being with Tiffany.
I'm lucky to have someone that loves me.
Every time I feel sad, my girlfriend makes me a lot happier.
I'm trying not to start crying here.
When you look her in the eye, what do you see?
I see love. I see joy. And I see that I have a future.
Why on earth do we call them disabled?
I just love him.
When, on the important things, they can be so much more able than us.
Love you.
One of the residents of this apartment building in Hillsboro, Oregon is being robbed. Slowly robbed of her memories.
It seems like a lot of my life is gone and I can't find it.
64-year-old Rose Hill first noticed this about a year ago.
I was rooting for them to find brain lesions or a brain tumor.
Rooting for it?
Yeah.
Why?
I wanted to know what was causing this, because if you know what's causing it, maybe we can fix it. Or make it better. Or make it not hurt so bad.
Doctors still don't know if it's dementia or what. And while they've been searching for a cause, Rose has been praying to get back at least some of the pieces of her past. And that's why it felt like a miracle when some of those memories did resurface at this Goodwill outlet of all places.
I knew they didn't belong here, and I knew I had to find the owner of them and return them.
Sarah Redlich was going through the bins here when she saw something that stood out, more than her hair even. Beneath all these tired books and blank slates, she found a truly fascinating read. Love letters, all addressed to one Rosie Hill. Rose has no idea how the letters ended up at Goodwill.
I didn't even know we had those.
They were written in 1973 by her now ex-husband when he was in the Vietnam War. But the fact that they're divorced in no way diminishes the value these letters now hold for her.
I remember. You smell the smells. Okay. You hear the sounds. You feel like you are back in time and place. I bought myself $200 worth of a camera. Okay, that's where the camera came from.
Most of the letters are just about ordinary life. But Rose says when you suffer from memory loss, any recollection feels like total joy. These letters may be 40 years old, but they couldn't have come at a better time.
Hi!
Which is why Rose is so grateful for Sarah.
Oh.
I wouldn't say she loves her like a daughter, but she did mark her height on the kitchen wall. And they do plan to stay in touch, which could make for some very fun new memories. Earlier this month, out of the clear blue sky, a small Mylar balloon floated into the parking lot of the local Heroes restaurant in Auburn, California.
Yes.
Lisa Swissley is the owner.
I found the balloon right over here.
Right over here?
Yeah. And I saw some writing on it and started reading it a little bit. And oh my gosh, it was so deep and emotional.
The balloon was signed by a girl who lived 450 miles away in Whittier, California. Her name is Ashlyn Maracino. She's 16. And although she was happy to learn someone found her balloon, that restaurant was not her intended target.
Have you ever let a balloon go and watch it? It really does look like it's going to heaven. And that's like, I want him to know that I still love him and all that.
Ashlyn meant that balloon for her father. Scott Maracino died of an aneurysm in 2009, and Ashlyn has been sending him messages on his birthday ever since. On this balloon, she wrote, "Dear Dad, you have missed so much, and I miss you. There's this guy I met, Bryant. He's really nice, funny, and sweet. I've been playing softball for 11 years. I'm hoping you're helping me get those home runs."
I wanted to share my accomplishments, my life. I wanted to tell him what he missed out on.
And most importantly, she wanted to apologize for all the times she didn't write. Scott spent a few years in jail for robbery, and during those years, he sent Ashlyn hundreds of letters and handmade cards.
I never responded.
You never answered him?
Never a real letter, no.
Even after he got out and turned his life around, Ashlyn says sometimes she would still ignore his phone calls, including his very last one.
I didn't answer the phone, and what if he wanted to say, I love you, and I would have liked to say that, but I didn't get to.
How many of us go to bed at night with the same potential for regret? How many of us might one day be just this desperate for one last contact? Fortunately for Ashlyn, she's pretty sure she got through this time. On the balloon, she asked her dad for a sign, and when someone somehow found her note in the local Heroes parking lot of all places, that was enough for her.
Just gave me faith and hope again and reassurance, and it's pretty amazing.
Take it from an angel. Remembering 60 years back is hard for anyone, but for Melvin Amrine, the groom in these pictures, it's especially challenging.
Did I invite you to marry me, or did you ask me?
No, you asked me to marry you.
Is that right?
Melvin was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 3 years ago.
Some of that is kind of lost.
For his wife, Doris, it's been hard to watch. But she says something happened recently to remind her that the man she fell in love with is still in there.
It's special because even though the mind doesn't remember everything, the heart remembers.
Okay.
It happened the day before Mother's Day, when Melvin, who normally needs help just walking around the block, turned up missing.
See a white male by the name of Melvin Amrine.
Police dispatch here in Little Rock, Arkansas, put out the call.
He left the house walking approximately 40 minutes ago.
They eventually found him 2 miles from his house.
Police say they get these calls every once in a while of an Alzheimer's patient out wandering aimlessly. But this one was different. When the officers approached Melvin, they say it was clear. He was a man on a mission.
It was absolutely a moment of clarity for him.
Sergeant Brian Grigsby and Officer Troy Dillard say even though Melvin didn't know his address or where he'd come from, he absolutely knew where he was going.
I mean, he was pretty adamant. He wasn't going home until he got those flowers.
Flowers?
That's what he wanted. He wanted flowers for his wife because tomorrow was Mother's Day.
Melvin had bought flowers for his wife every Mother's Day since the birth of their first child, and he wasn't going to disappoint her now.
We had to get those flowers. We had to get them. I didn't have a choice.
So after telling dispatch they were taking the man right home,
and there's the Kroger's.
The officers secretly stopped by the grocery store. Surveillance video shows them helping Melvin pick out the flowers. And when Melvin came up short at the register, look who slipped the cashier the difference. Meanwhile, back at home, a very worried wife was about to get the gift of a lifetime.
As he came up those steps, and I saw those roses and the smile on his face, I mean, I just broke inside. I just said, thank you, because I saw his heart.
Amazing what's possible when love becomes an instinct.